All right, mathletes, so here we go. We're going to be talking about long division of polynomials. Are you crying? All right, so let's jump in this and let's figure out how to do these polynomials so they don't give you a headache. All right, so first things first. We got our numerator here, which is on top of our fraction. That's going to go inside this long division bar, right? And then we have our denominator, and that's what we're going to be dividing by, of course, and that's going to go on the outside. So the setup is always the same when we're looking at this long division, okay? And we're going to be looking at these steps. Everyone lists the steps a little bit different, but they pretty much they're very similar. I'll just say that. All right. So I'm gonna narrow this down to 3 steps, and then I'll give you a bunch of examples. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to divide the first term of the numerator by the first term of the denominator. Right. So first step is we're going to be dividing, and I'll show you what that looks like. The second step is whatever we get when we divide, right, that we're going to put that up here, and then we're going to multiply that answer, right, by this divisor, by what we're dividing by right here. All right, so we're going to distribute whatever it is we got. All right, after we distribute, we put that result right here, and then we'll subtract. All right, we're going to end up subtracting for that third step. And I'm going to lay down everything so this will make sense. All right. So these steps right here, these are just like the 5 Ds of dodgeball.
Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
So let's jump in here and let's look at our first example. All right. So let's start off by writing our denominator, which is the x plus 2. We'll write that out here. That's what we're going to be dividing by. And then always make sure that both your numerator and your denominator they're in descending order. So the biggest exponent goes first, and then you keep going, dropping down your exponents, right? So in this case, this one's nice because our exponents are lined up perfectly. All right, so we got x squared minus 3x minus 10. All right, so first step, I'll put a D here. We are going to divide. So what did I say? We're going to take our leading term here, x squared, and we're going to divide it by x. So everything else we are going to ignore. So we go ahead and we divide those two. All right. So we end up with x. So that x, I'll put it right here. All right. And what I like to do is I like to line up the terms by their degree. These both have an exponent of 1. So this is how I like to line it up. It's not necessary. That's what I like to do. All right. So what do we do with that? Well, we said first we divide, and then we multiply. So we're going to multiply, then write that down. We're going to multiply the x by whatever we divided by initially, x plus 2. So let's go ahead and let's distribute that. So we'll distribute, get a little shake and bake here. So we get x squared plus 2x. So that is going to go right here, x squared plus 2x. Excellent. So we multiplied, and this is what we got. All right, step 3, now we're going to subtract this. And what I like to do is I like to bring in a different color here, and I like to subtract. All right, I put the parentheses so I make sure to tell myself I'm going to change both of these signs. All right, if you don't want to do it this way, right, you don't need those parentheses, but make sure that you change both of those signs. That's where the majority of mistakes are made, right? So be careful with those signs. Okay, so what should always happen, what's always going to happen is these are going to cancel. If they don't, then you jacked up somewhere, all right? And that's a big hint right there. So we have negative 3x, and don't forget we're changing the sign because we're subtracting, minus 2x squared. So negative 3x minus 2x, and that's going to leave us with a negative 5x. All right, and of course we're going to bring down the following term, which was that minus 10. All right, so the last thing we did was we subtracted. So those are the big 3 steps, and all we do is we repeat that process until it doesn't make sense to repeat that process. And I'll show you in a few minutes what that means and what that looks like as well. All right, so then I ask myself, all right, we repeat this process. So now we divide negative 5x by x. So let me do this on the other side. We divide negative 5x by x. And those x's cancel, and it leaves us with negative 5. So that's what I'm going to put right there. All right. Again, I'm lining these up by their degree. Is it necessary? No, that's what I like doing. All right. What do I do with that negative 5x? We go ahead and we distribute, right? So whatever you end up with up here, that's what you're going to distribute times this right here. So negative 5 times x gives us the negative 5x, which is exactly what we want. And then you multiply negative 5 times the 2, which gives us the negative 10. And what do you notice in this case? Well, I know I'm going to have to subtract next, right? I'm going to have to subtract. And in this case, when we subtract, everything cancels. So in this case, that 0 is my remainder. So we have no remainder. So this division, this is the same exact thing as x minus 5. So there is our final answer. And I know what some of you are asking. Well, can I just factor what's on top and then do some cancellation and end up with the same answer? Yes, but here's the thing. The numerator does not always factor. Most of the time, actually, it doesn't factor nicely. So long division, you're going to see, is going to come up all over the place in mathematics. So this is a great tool to have in your back pocket. Do another example. So now we're going to divide x squared plus 2x minus 15 by x plus 5. All right, so let's go ahead and rewrite this. So x plus 5 is on the outside, and the x squared plus 2x minus 15 is on the inside. And we know that's the one that counts, because whatever's on the inside, that's what matters the most. That's the cream filling.
Hey, where's the cream filling? Now that's the stuff.
All right, so let's go ahead and take the show on the road. So we're gonna divide. So we get x squared divided by x. All right, so all I did, I took my first term, divided it by my first term. Always the same. So we get x. Boom. What do I do with that x? Perfect. We multiply it. All right, we multiply it. So we're going to distribute. So we're going to take that x and we're going to multiply that times the x plus 5. All right, so we get x squared plus 5x. So that is what's going to go right here underneath. All right, so we get x squared plus 5x. Notice what we said earlier. Now we're going to subtract these two. So remember, when you're subtracting, ultimately what's happening is you're changing these signs, right? That's what the subtraction does. So what I do is I come in with a different color and I change the signs. And the reason I use a different color is because I really love red. No, I'm just kidding. The reason I use different colors is so that I know that I have already changed the signs. So later on, I don't forget, or I already know that this process, that step was already performed. All right, and as you practice these on your own, you'll see what I mean. All right, so let's go ahead and subtract. So these cancel, bada boom, bada bang, and then over here we get negative 3x, and don't forget to subtract that 15. All right, so subtract that, or sorry, drop down that negative 15. All right, so let's do this again. So now we work with our first term and our first term, and we divide these. So we're going to divide, and I get negative 3x divided by x. All right, so that leaves me with negative 3. And so now, what do I do with that negative 3? Well, we distribute, right? We're going to multiply that out. So negative 3 times x gives me negative 3x. And then negative 3 times 5 is going to leave me with negative 15. I come through, I change my pen. So now I got a different Apple pen here. And I'm going to change my signs. And we go ahead and combine like terms. What do you know? Once again, we have 0 as a remainder. All right? That doesn't happen. Most of the time, that does not happen. In these examples, That's what we're seeing is taking place. All right, so our final answer here is x minus 3. So I know what you're thinking. All right, I know what you're thinking. My producer, he knows what you're thinking. Go ahead, let him know what they're thinking.
Oh, I don't think I'm a lot dumber than you thought that I thought I was once.
What happens when this process takes a little turn? All right, so let's get something that doesn't look as nice. So notice in this example here, we have some missing terms. I don't have an x squared term and I don't have an x term. So if you've seen my synthetic division video, right, you're gonna see something very similar happen. All right, and some of you are gonna actually watch that video later. All right, so here what we need to do, make sure things are in descending order. So if you need to rewrite this, because I'm gonna need an x squared term, right? It has to fall in descending order, and I'm gonna need an x term, right? So if they don't have it, put a 0 there, put these placeholders there, and you're gonna see how this is gonna save you 15% or more on car insurance. I'm just saying, just saying. All right, so I got the x minus 2. We'll leave that on the outside there. I got my x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 8. All right, so let's get to it. The process never changes. So what we do is we take this x cubed and divide it by x. X cubed, we're gonna divide it by x and we get x squared. Just like I said before, I like to line it up with my other x squareds, right? So these, they line up. All right, what do I do with this? I distribute, right? We distribute. So x squared times x gives me x cubed. X squared times negative 2 gives me negative 2x squared. All right, so now we go ahead and we subtract that. So I'm gonna take a different color here and I'm going to change my signs, because when you subtract, that's ultimately what we're doing. All right, so combining our like terms, we see these two cancel, bam, and you're left with 2x squared, and let's go ahead and drop that plus 0x. All right, we're gonna drop it like it's hot. There we go. So once again, we're gonna divide. This time we're gonna divide the 2x squared by x. So let me write that down. We're gonna divide 2x squared by x, right? Dividing that, we're left with 2x. So we'll line that up with our other x. So I'll put that right there. What do we do with that 2x? Well, we distribute it. So 2x times x, that's gonna leave us with 2x squared. And then we have 2x times negative 2, which is gonna leave us with negative 4x. Boom. So we multiplied. Now, according to our steps, now we subtract. So when we subtract, we'll go ahead, grab a different color, and we're gonna go ahead and change our signs, right? Process never changes. I don't care what your mom tells you. All right, so go ahead, cancel these bad boys, and we're left with 4x. Let's go ahead and drop down that minus 8. And let's take it one more time. One more time for the East Coast, Dr. Math. All right, so does it make sense? Am I allowed to take that 4x and divide it by x? So notice my degree here is 1 and my degree here is 1, right? Once this degree, right, of your potential remainder is less than this degree, that's when you know to stop, right? But we're not there yet, so let's continue. So 4x divided by x, these x's cancel. Wouldn't that be nice if that happened in real life? And we're left with 4 right there. So what do we do with that 4? Boom, we distribute it. So let's take 4 times x gives us 4x, 4 times negative 2 gives us negative 8. We grab our different color, notice the tip on this color, and we change our signs. Boom, these guys cancel, these guys cancel. All of a sudden, we have a 0 remainder again. So our final answer is x squared plus 2x plus 4. let's pretend that this was a different number besides 0. What you would do when you're writing your answer, and I could squeeze it in here, is I'll put it in black here. I'll say plus whatever your remainder is would go on top, and then whatever you were dividing by initially, which was in this case x minus 2, would go on the bottom. So if I wanted to write this as my answer here, sorry for the mess, that's what I would write down. So if this were a -3, you would just put this -3 right here, and all of this would be your final answer. Amazing stuff. All right, folks, hopefully you found this helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.